A very good evening. It's about 7:33 in India. It's equivalent to Eastern Standard Time, about 9:03 in the North American region. So today it's really a pleasure. It's absolutely a pleasure to have a very special event that will highlight, that will really bring to light the culmination of an institute which has earmarked the journey of India on the global stage in science and technology. For about 70 years, the Indian Institute of Technology has played a tremendous role, not only to leverage her existence, but also the whole of IIT system and put the people of India on the global stage in the frontiers of science and technology. Just a few months back, there has been a person who has taken over the stage of leadership of IIT Kharagpur. He is one of the most youngest of all the directors who has taken over the helms of IIT Kharagpur, and his leadership quality, his science and technology abilities, his expertise, the accolades and the awards that he has received in his career path, his brightness, which was shown right from day one when he was a student, makes him as one of the topmost leader of science and education in our country. I think everybody knows him. Everybody in our country knows him, and the world at large knows him. He is no one else but Professor Suman Chakraborty, originally a professor of mechanical engineering, but his work, his caliber, his research, his development, his expertise spreads across disciplines, between disciplines, and cross-cuts different disciplines as one ephemeral whole. That is the brilliance that Professor Chakraborty has. So I'll just request Professor Prajit Nandi, who is our Vice-Chairperson of the School of Leadership at IIT Kharagpur, and incidentally also the Associate Dean of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, which is a very important wing which has emerged in the recent times to leverage IIT Kharagpur not only across the nation, but on the world stage, to say a few words and introduce the esteemed speaker. So it's over to you, Professor Nandi.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Sen. Actually, informally, I call Professor Sen Joyda, and all of us belong to the same fraternity. And so it's a great pleasure for me to introduce our director, Professor Suman Chakraborty. But again, I think Shumanda, we call him, he's only a few years senior to us, and he prefers us calling him like Shumanda rather than, sir or director. But nonetheless, it is a great pleasure for me to introduce him. Needs no introduction as such, very well known. If you do a simple Google search, you'll get to know a lot about what he has achieved over the years. So, of course, coming from a very bright academic background from Jadavpur University, and then followed by his doctoral work in IISc, he specializes in fluid dynamics, especially nanoscale and microscale fluid dynamics, and that his significant contribution to the domain. And in general, he's a fantastic teacher, which of course led him to multiple awards. And I think that one of the most significant awards that he received as a teacher here in IIT KGP was the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award, which is the highest scientific award from the government. And of course, there are many others, but as recently as I think a couple of weeks back, he is the first recipient of Dr. Murli Manohar Joshi Distinguished Teacher Award 2025. And while we can keep talking about his awards and his academic accolades, but I mean the way we know him from very close quarters because I mean I personally have interacted with him when he was the dean of Shrik, and then in many other informal forums. So very warm person, and I think already after he has taken over, the warmth, his personal warmth, is touching the institute, and we are as a faculty group, we are guided by his not only by his vision but also the general criteria of seeing things with empathy, yet doing the right things, doing things by the spirit of by the spirit rather than by the letter. And we generally do not associate leadership with academia, but then, and that's where the Partha School of Leadership comes into picture. It was actually academy. It was an academy just a few months back, but then under the leadership of Professor Chakraborty, the academy has been converted into a school and will be offering many more coursework to the students. So a lot of things to be done from the school, and as a part of the Partha School of Leadership, this has been our tradition. Every month we get someone from any leader from a given domain to share his thoughts, his or her thoughts about leadership. And it kind of our director is of course extremely busy, but then we kind of got hold of him, and he has been very kind to spend some time with us and share his thoughts about leadership in academia, and of course in general, and maybe even talk about IIT Kharagpur in particular. Over to you, Shumanda. Please take over the stage.
Thank you, Prajit, and thank you, Joyda. And it has been an absolute honor to be introduced by both of you, who are otherwise also very close to me, both personally and professionally. I think the topic that I'm going to speak about is of broad interest, not just specific to IIT Kharagpur. Having said that, we are at a very critical juncture in terms of our 75 years, and whatever we have achieved so far has been an outcome of a very glorious journey. But more importantly, what lessons that we could learn out of that to take our beloved institution forward to the level which all of us would like to see is something that would remain in everybody's vision, most of us who are sitting here and love the institute. So with that bit of background, let me try to put up the slides. I will tell you that these slides are mostly pointers to what I will speak about, and therefore maybe I will be at instances a bit deviated from what is written in the black and white in the slides, but nevertheless let me share the slides and move forward. So the I thought a bit to keep what headline should I keep, and this is what I kept: Reimagining academic leadership in a transforming world, promise of IIT Kharagpur in the 21st century. Now, as Prajit rightly pointed out at the very beginning, that leadership is something which we normally do not associate with academic activities. And academic leadership, although it's globally a very, very well recognized terminology, but it is a very confusing terminology. And I will tell you why it is confusing. From the very early childhood, I have always been very fond of cricket. Not that I have been a cricketer of any means, but I always have enjoyed watching cricket. Now, I never believed that you will have a leader in the cricket team who will be among poorest of the performers. But when I came to academics, sometimes I tended to ask ask a question to me, at least, to quite a few people, there as academic leaders at different places, that do these people even have the worth of becoming one among the top 10 academicians in their own institutes? And the answer has not been very comfortable, and I sought explanation to many senior people, and many people told that no, it's administration is a different thing and academics is a different thing. So someone may be a very good academician, but that is not really what is always sought after for academic leadership. Now, throughout my journey, I thought that this is something what we have the responsibility to correct. And I cannot believe that someone who is leading an academic institution would not be among the at least top 5 to 10% of the academicians in that institute itself. So that brings me to the believer of academic leadership as an acceptable phrase to talk about. Now, as I am already in the mindset of getting into the transforming world where our interventions in terms of leadership, in terms of academics, in terms of research, all we expect to culminate. And we people have seen quite a few things, or across academic generations, the evolution I call. Now, every evolution is something which you can appreciate the inner core if you exaggerate that a little bit. So this is what is my experience summed up from the education that we used to have in our younger days. And there are many senior people sitting here, and in their younger days it would have been even tougher. And from then to now, there is an evolving educational landscape. And this evolving educational landscape has to do with many things. And this is actually a very complex research topic. Now, how that is impacting leadership in the highest level where such education is provided is a bit of a complex and convoluted connection. But let us start with something which is on a bit of a lighter note. So if we see the topmost block which is there, so this is a school geometry problem. You have a rectangle and some quarter circles are cut out from there, and you have to find out the surface area. Not that this is the toughest problem in the world, but at least in the school geometry, this is considered to be one of the reasonable problems where if the student doesn't know how to work this out, it will not be that easy. Now, people thought, and this has always been the case, as I have seen, and all of us have witnessed, that no, it will create such questions, can create stress in the minds of students. So let us make it simple. So the next one, you see that there is a rectangle with some length and breadth given, and find the surface area of the rectangle. So this circle, semicircle, that part is taken away. It's a bit simplified. I will not use the term diluted. I will call it simplified. Then the third problem, calculate the area of the rectangle multiplying the length by the width. So someone will argue that, well, there is a rectangle, I want to calculate the area, but I do not know the formula. Is it a crime that I do not know the formula? What is great in knowing the formula? What is great in memorizing the formula? So to get rid of all such philosophical issues, you give the formula, multiply length by the width. So it becomes a multiplication problem. Then someone says that, no, let me just ease it out by giving some choices so that the correct choice can be found out. So came the era of the multiple choice. Then someone says that no, choice is, even it's very difficult for students to find out what is the correct answer. So let us give choices, but some choices which will actually never be the correct choices. So choose the correct surface area of the rectangle. Choice A is India, B is Eden Gardens, and C is 600. So no matter whatever is the knowledge of the person in the subject, will converge to the correct answer. But even then, this is tough because one has to know what is that area and all. So then comes the last one. This is the most modern question. Color the rectangle with the color of your choice. And someone asked that what is that you are trying to convey out of this? What is the learning of the student? And the learning of the student is that the student at least now knows what is the shape of a rectangle. So the whole idea is that this is how the questions and the way in which we expect that the students should learn, that has changed, and it is going to change even more. In the higher education landscape, and possibly the highest education landscape, we are seeing a reflection of this changing context in education. I was having a meeting at the ministry just yesterday on different aspects of education, and we were, of course, having different topics to discuss. But one of the topics it came up is that we cannot decouple with the decouple the higher education from the so-called preliminary education that people are getting, and this is taking us to a completely different era. At the same time, if we imagine the highest level, we are going from industrial age to intelligence age. AI, automation, and open web revolution. At the same time, we have started realizing more and more that human-centric challenges would not automatically be met up through such intelligence, technology, automation, etc. They will also need empathy and ethics. So we call the engineering for human-centric challenges addressed by empathy plus ethics plus engineering. Rapid evolution of the required skill sets that can make the learning obsolete very, very quickly if it is content based. So if there is a teacher who has been habituated in teaching courses on the basis of just the content, then that content is something which is going to remain forever, but the need of the content may not be there. So the skill or the expertise that is imparted with that content as a platform, if that is missing, then this learning will become obsolete very quickly. And if we look into the internet, there is explosion of contents available, and therefore the contents can no more be the central focus of teaching learning, and we all have to accept this. So the shift of information-based paradigm to knowledge and skill synthesis for problem solving. Because this is academic leadership, our leadership cannot be insensitive to this rapid change that has taken place in the educational scenario over the past years. The 21st century reality, if we want to discuss about 21st century academic leadership, we need to accept or rather assimilate the 21st century reality. We are no longer preparing students for careers. We are preparing them for consequences, because the consequences are very severe. Consequences of technologies that evolve faster than policies. Today we make a policy of introducing something, maybe a technology for addressing climate change, and the consequences of such technologies may make this particular technology, which is very modern today, very much obsolete, even to a limit that the bureaucratic policy making decision, which takes quite some time, realizes that once the policy has been made, the technology is no more relevant. consequences of climate that changes faster than we can adapt, and consequences of inequalities that deepen faster than we can heal. And this is impacting the entire world. In such a world, leadership is not an optional skill for academicians. It is the survival code of the 21st century. So universities around the world still treat leadership as a soft skill. I am familiar with many good courses, many good programs on leadership across the world, but that belief that it is a stand-alone aspect by itself is not actually there within the most. So it is treated mostly as a soft skill, a sort of an elective module tucked between the core credits. But at IIT Kharagpur, we do not subscribe to such considerations. For us, leadership is not a chapter. It is the DNA. I first took up the role of formal academic leadership. I always consider to be in myself in academic leadership, even though at a time when I did not have any such formal title of any leadership position, that it should deal with questioning the unquestioned, negotiate the unknown, and connect the disconnected, and act with courage even when no one is watching. And what I always thought is that these are some of the qualities that we must expect from even the topmost researcher. Question the unquestioned, connect the disconnected, and act with courage, maybe in the lab, in isolation, when no one is watching. Now, in the present scenario, what we realize that the most important aspect of all these is question, question, and question. All of us, for some of our work, be it office work, be it academic work, use the generative AI and very commonly ChatGPT. So if someone is trying to get an answer of something and gives ChatGPT a question or an input, the depth of the question that gets into is directly related to the quality of the answer, even if the answer is not fully accurate. So the world no longer rewards people who know the answers. It rewards those who can frame the right questions. And I have started linking academics research with leadership. The most important aspect of research is also to frame the right questions. And one of the very senior teachers once told me that a research question rightly framed is half the problem already solved. So now, given that framework of academic leadership, it is the connectivity between India's moment and IIT Kharagpur's responsibility. India today stands at a rare inflection point. A nation becoming a hub of digital public goods, a powerhouse of space technology. We are really proud of ISRO, and the chairman himself is a distinguished alumnus. A front runner in climate innovation, a champion of affordable healthcare, and a beacon of democratic demography. But no nation rises without producing leaders who can think generously and act responsibly. And IIT Kharagpur should be perceived as a mirror of that national thought reflected in the aspect of education, research, and innovation and entrepreneurship. IIT Kharagpur carries a unique responsibility. We are not just the oldest IIT. We are the original experiment in technological nation building. at that time when the IIT system was established. Although this experimentation with the system was never perhaps explicitly mentioned, but it was indeed a new thing and therefore an experiment. We were designed not merely to create engineers, but to create architects of a new India. Today, in the 21st century, that mandate is not just relevant, it is now very, very urgent. With that as a prelude, I have thought of around 5 IIT KGP leadership pillars. I could think more, but I somehow converged to this few. Leadership, number 1, leadership as visionary imagination. We must produce leaders who can see the invisible. That means something which is going to come up that the person would be able to foresee, whether it's a market that has not yet formed, a technology that has not yet matured, or a problem that the world has not yet diagnosed. So one of my pledges is that at IIT KGP, we should promote problem-finding ecosystems, not just problem-solving ones. This is number 1. Number 2, leadership as ethical courage. We must inspire leaders who know that shortcuts can build careers but can never build civilizations. And I think that brings us to the context of our newly launched Partha Ghosh School of Leadership, upgraded from the previous Academy of Leadership, with its emphasis on character, governance, empathy, and nation building, and is a first of its kind commitment to the ethical leadership in STEM. Point number 3, leadership as impactful innovation. Innovation is not the act of invention, it is the act of relevance. Whether it is affordable disease diagnostics, agri-tech for rural resilience, next-gen materials, AI for public good, and many other, I have just given some examples. IIT Kharagpur's innovation model stands on the pillars of scale, sustainability, and social cohesion. Point number 4, leadership as compassionate intelligence. True leaders build bridges and not walls. Through our unique Setu, which is a symbolic program for student well-being movement, the largest of its kind in the country, we have shown that empathy is not a soft skill, it is a strategic skill to connect people, to connect from darkness to light and from hopelessness to hope. Point number 5, leadership as global citizenship. Our future leaders will not navigate industries, they will navigate interdependencies. Through our unprecedented global partnerships, and we are really exploring the global partnerships to breadth and depth, intercontinental classrooms and deep collaborative programs, IIT Kharagpur is positioned as India's global lighthouse of higher education. So what is our leadership promise? We will build leaders who unite technology with humanity. If technology becomes faster than empathy, the world will collapse into iniquity. Our graduates will prevent that. We will build leaders who are fluent in both algorithms and accountability. They will build systems that are powerful yet principled. We will build leaders who are creators of opportunity and not merely seekers of opportunity. And in one of our recent communications, I have clearly mentioned that we are trying to migrate from job seekers to job creators. Not that everyone will create a job, but that will emerge as one of the preferred means. We will build leaders who who transform India from a consumer solution to a generator of global standards, from semiconductors to sustainability, from AI to affordable healthcare. Our agenda is sovereignty through innovation. We will be leaders who treat diversity as strength and purpose as destiny. A leader who listens is 10 times stronger than a leader who commands. Now, every institution of eminence would definitely have certain interventions which in a direct or indirect way will try to impact all these directions positively. But why IIT Kharagpur is uniquely positioned? The largest, most diverse, most multidisciplinary campus in the country. Here engineering meets law, management meets medicine, and design meets science, society meets technology, and so on and so forth. So I prefer to call it an institution of convergence, an ecosystem designed for experimentation. We do not teach students how to avoid failure. We teach them how to fail forward. A heritage that combines engineering excellence with a humanistic soul. Our campus was a prison before our independence. And from there it became a university, a transformation that symbolizes the very essence of leadership, breaking the walls, building the futures. A national mandate to lead with scale. Our initiatives from AI to agri-tech, from quantum to healthcare are built not just for labs, but for India's billion-plus aspirations. And we are all geared to recognize that more and more emphatically. So I have a call for action to the faculty. Lead not from the podium, but from the front lines of curiosity. To the students, your degree is not a destination, it's a launch pad. Use it to lift others. To the industry, partner with us not for projects, but for new possibilities. To the nation, IIT Kharagpur stands ready to build the next gen of leaders who will write India's success story in this century. So here is my IIT KGP leadership Renaissance model. I imagine not myself as a director, but I am learning myself and trying to make myself better and better to migrate to the role of institutional architect. I am not yet so much capable, but I am continuously learning. Shift the role from a traditional CEO type of thing to a systems architect who reimagines the institute's ecosystem holistically. Here are the core mandates. Re-architect academic, research, innovation, and societal interfaces as interconnected systems and not silos. Let me give an example. Many people complain that some teachers will teach a particular course quite methodically, but exactly in the same way in which not only me, my father, my grandfather all have studied. And when the notes become old, the photocopy machine becomes the savior. The notes again become white. Why it is happening is because the progress in the subject or perspective with research is not reflecting in the academic program. And so we should create organic possibilities that they naturally become interconnected systems. Drive transformative agenda through decision thinking, foresight science, and strategic governance. And position IIT Kharagpur as the real mother institution, which many call in that language. It is a mentor of mentors, incubating national science missions. We are already formulating a very broad networked university model where we are trying to position ourselves as hub of hubs and convert the institution into a mega scale networked university, anchoring mission oriented national hubs. For example, AI and Humanity Hub, Energy and Climate Resilience Hub, Bharat Mobility and Infrastructure Hub, Precision Healthcare and Bioengineering Hub, Agri-Food and Water Security Hub, and it could be many, just whatever came to my mind I tried to jot down. And focused global hubs. This is where we have to be really good at. Permanent bilateral clusters, not short-term bilateral programs. Say Indo-US, I have given some examples with different countries. No reason to believe that these are just these. Be it Indo-UK, Indo-German, Indo-Japan, and Indo-French, could be whatever, on different focused areas. And in that networked university model, the director becomes a global network orchestrator and not just a campus leader who is recognized only within the campus.
Yes.
Tire talent acceleration stack. It's a sort of a talent hunt, a unique workforce vision beyond faculty student binaries. I am trying to put forward this proposition. Frontier Fellows, world's top 1% researcher. This is not that some survey report says 1%, 2%, not like that. Really the ones who are recognized as among the best in their field. World's top 1% researchers appointed across institutions for short, high impact missions, appointed to work with IIT Kharagpur. Mission faculty, interdisciplinary vertical solving 10 to 20-year national challenges. Innovation engineers, a new cadre of research technologies enabling translational pipelines. And I feel this is very, very important. Whenever we, in some big, highly established labs, maybe abroad, I go and work, I find that faculty is not doing everything. In our place, one of the biggest challenges is that faculty is doing anything and everything under the earth that is required by the institution. So someone who is just a cadre of research technologist and enabling such a translational pipeline and not having much of burden of teaching and other things. And scholars of the future program, nurture school students, catch them young, undergraduates, rural innovators as a pre-IIT talent funnel and introduce mechanisms for bringing them to IIT quality education. The IIT KGP 10 Moonshots framework. Each year, the Office of the Director launches 10 such missions with well-defined outcomes. Some examples. I have given 10 examples. Carbon neutral campus by 2030, Bharat AI supercomputing grid, drug discovery from molecule to market in 100 days, digital health twin for every Indian child, rural climate tech innovation corridors, zero hunger KGP food security tech mission, frugal microsatellite constellation for disaster resilience, India's quantum materials valley, water from air, scalable atmospheric harvesting system, and living labs, villages powered by KGP research. These are just 10 examples, not that these have to be sort of taken forward, but these are some introductory 10 examples that I thought. Radical curriculum transformation. We discuss about curricula, we discuss hours and days about what our curricula should contain. But if we answer to our conscience, these are all old wine in new bottle. So today's casting, welding, forming, tomorrow becomes welding, forming, casting, and the next day it becomes forming, welding, casting. We are typically doing with different combinations and trying to package them in the form of something new. We require a disruption. So move from rigid degrees to competency-based modular stackable ecosystems. The measures should not be subjects, but they should be missions. We have thought of a 3-tier curriculum, and in the previous Senate, we already discussed this. The tier 1 is a core fundamental, where deep conceptual understanding is required and it cannot be compromised. Newton's laws of motion, 50 years back, whatever were the laws, now with all these AI and so many great things, the consequences of those have not changed much. The perspectives of those have not changed much. And although we have autonomous car which can be modulated by AI, unfortunately that car cannot run without an engine. So core fundamental is very important. Then the next level is interdisciplinary breadth skills, which the student will require not just for survival, but also for navigating into the future needs across different borders, some common things. And the third level, electives and practicum, where some of the knowledges from the previous level would be assimilated in the form of a higher scale and possibly a collective work to bring that into practice. 1-year frontier tracks in AI, energy, bio-mobility systems, etc. 6-month impact residences with real world institutions. So these are all small modules. And with the School of Leadership, which is organizing this program, I have thought of India's first dual ladder for leadership plus deep tech combined program. Every student and innovator could be a mandate, and it could lead to at least a few startups or patentable technologies through the educational program. We aspire to build up an innovation economy on the campus. The IIT KGP Deep Tech Super Park, an innovation district spanning at least 200 acres, just 1/10 of overall land that we have, using maybe a public-private partnership model. A unicorn pipeline where institute-run venture studio with national ministries and global tech leaders are connected. Revenue independence vision. 50% of our budget should come from IP, licensing, corporate labs, and translational technologies within the next 10 years. And we are definitely going to build up a strategic map towards that direction. Governance. Most of the faculty members, most of the students tend to get frustrated with the governance. We believe that to make everybody agile and participatory, we need to have government reimagined, transparent, data-driven, and human. We should have digital governance twin. That means all workflows should be AI supported to an extent. Just like nowadays, when we start typing emails, there will be AI prompts. So just like that, all workflows, they should not be completely decided by AI, but they should be AI supported. And like a 5-10-30 model, 5-day approval, 10-day collaboration, and 30-day prototype cycle. So certain preset timescales by which we should learn to wind up professionally. Participatory micro councils, faculty, students, alumni, staff, and zero layers model, collapse bureaucracy to the absolute limit, create agile mission pods which are very, very efficiently decentralized. Sometimes when I have come to this role, which is now nearing 6 months, what I realized is that even for going to a washroom, someone has to take approval from director, approved, not approved. It is to that limit. So from that limit to efficient decentralization will require significant rework, but we are already into that. Future society leadership. the needs, and these are the needs that we will inculcate. Elevate IIT KGP as a national guide on tech ethics and AI policy. Climate resilience for the developing world. Gender and social inclusion in tech. Indigenous knowledge and science fusion. And ethical entrepreneurship for Bharat. So the director becomes a national philosopher leader in science technology and tries to develop the culture of having a scientist's mind, entrepreneur's drive, and humanist soul. Design machines and a better world simultaneously. And in this particular mission, alumni become the global co-leaders. IIT Kharagpur boasts of more than 90,000 alumni on record. And to harness their establishment, their esteem, and their knowledge experience, I would like to introduce a new paradigm of alumni co-governance, where the key components would be sectorial advisory boards led by global alumni, CEOs, scientists, or other equivalent position holders. At least 1,000 alumni professors of practice, seed funding cycles co-led by alumni investor networks, and a KGP World Senate of 100 global leaders advising the director directly. Human-centric campus renaissance, a spiritually enriched, aesthetically world-class campus ecosystem. IIT KGP as a forest university with sustainability as a living practice. Vibrant multicultural districts, smart mobility and energy positive buildings. These are not some of the thoughts. We have already tried or started implementing some of these. 24/7 open innovation zones. Arts, philosophy, design, deeply embedded and converged with engineering. Not as curriculum. We no more require that kind of arts or humanities course, but the students will consider this as a medicine that has to be swollen. It should be as a practice for the joy of learning. The core leadership metaphor. The next director, we all talk about quantum technology. So the next director should be a quantum leader, one who can operate simultaneously across systems, ideas, people, society, and planet. Reimagining IIT Kharagpur not as a university, but India's most powerful engine of scientific civilization building. So there are certain distinctive perspectives through which it will happen. Shift the director from administrator to nation builder. Convert IIT KGP from a campus to a mega ecosystem. Create self-sustaining innovation economy. Pioneer a societal leadership role from a technical university. And redefine the purpose of higher education for India at 100 years of independence, when we intend or aspire to achieve Vikshit Bharat. So these are 10 commandments defining the leadership perspectives of an academician's journey. I have purposefully not kept these, keeping in view about director, dean, etc. This is any academician, even a research scholar in a lab. Turn disasters into opportunities. Try to turn every obstacle into a triumph. Determine the real goals, then strive to achieve them. When you want to tell only someone something important, do it very, very personally. Do not insult others openly. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty doing what you ask others to do. Listen effectively. Listening is very, very important art of leadership. Encourage teamwork and participation and empower team members. Just empower them. Communicate effectively. Make sound and timely decisions. Treat every person as an individual to an extent possible. Know yourself and your team and protect your team. Take all the responsibility or discredit of something that has gone wrong with the team and give the team the credit that is due to them. Have vision, courage, and commitment. So the bottom line, feel the world, think deeply, and build responsibly. In the era of AI, the most human engineers will lead. We should interpret it correctly. In the convocation address, I made one statement that the world does not need mere technocrats. Possibly my pronunciation was not that good at that time. So some journalist approached me and said, "Sir, you told the right thing. The world no more needs technocrats." So they converted the mere to no more. The idea is technocrats would be very, very important, but most human engineers will lead. Enable the next gen leaders to build themselves and not their CV. Unfortunately, our next gen is extremely engaged in building their CV but not themselves, which will make them leaders and navigate through the challenging times ahead. So to summarize, as we stand at the confluence of heritage and horizon, the past 75 years of heritage with what we see in the front, IIT Kharagpur renews its foundation promise to develop leaders who are bold enough to dream, brave enough to act, and wise enough to uplift. This is not merely our institutional vision. It is our national duty, it is our century's opportunity, and it is our unshakable commitment. Thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you so much, Suman. I think that's the privilege you have given all of us. So this is Joyda. I mean, what a dream you have presented, what a speech. I think your definitions, I've just taken all the points. I've saved most of your slides because it's a learning for me. I have to learn so much from this presentation. Your definitions as an institutional architect, building institutions, your definition as a systems architect, building systems within and across nations, your definition, which I really liked, as a global network orchestrator. I mean, that's like music, harmony, rhythm between various systems. It's absolutely brilliant. Your definition as a natural philosopher leader, and what I liked most, as a quantum leader who can walk simultaneously across various systems, like a Schrodinger's cat, a cat which is dead, is not yet ready to launch itself, and a cat which is alive with all the opportunities. How you bridge the two systems at the same time. I think your talk has been an inflection point when IIT Kharagpur, the mother of IIT systems, reaches the Platinum Jubilee celebration. And it's looking for a turning point also. And it's also looking for a tipping point so that it celebrates in its full breadth and its full depth the fraternity of a teamwork, the freedom of imagination, which was so much in your talk. I think every slide contained a parameter of imagination, which is coupled with freedom. And I think the future, which was so much evident in your presentation. I think the whole presentation has been an outline of the future without disregarding the gems from the past. That was the brilliance that we saw in your presentation as a friend, as a philosopher, and a guide. So I think we have a very august fraternity of people here. I think three wonderful minds, beautiful minds, who has steered and helped the institute in different ways or in common ways. Dr. Partha Ghosh, Parthoda, I think that's the way he is to all of us. He's approachable in the day, he's approachable in the night. He calls me at about 2 p.m. I mean, time doesn't matter. Why? Because it's friendship what matters, the trust. Subrata, the Professor Subrata Chattopadhyay, whom I know since 1984, We have had so many food and fun together in different corners of the city, across the nation, and even abroad. And Siddhartha, who has been one of my best, pals, I should say, arguments and augmentation both has happened at the same time. Both have happened at the same time. So I just thought these three minds will be the three perfect extraction principles to ask and trigger some of the very early questions that might be followed by others who are already present here. So I'll start with Partha, and Partha's exodus from the heart, his contributions to the IIT systems, and his phone calls at 2 p.m. in the night. They're all signatures of his involvement, his care, and his love. That's leadership. I'm asking Partha to ask the first, not a question, give a remark and initiate a journey based on this brilliant presentation. Partha, it's to you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Suman. It was absolutely delight to listen to your vision, the path forward that you laid out for IIT Kharagpur, and not only IIT Kharagpur, but for the world. Because I think every university is going through a very fundamental questioning. What should be the curriculum? What kind of leaders we want to build? And clearly at the core is the concept of leadership. And leadership not meaning that he has to be the boss, he has to lead, but leaders who can explore new frontiers. So my first question to you would be that obviously we are here to support you and help you to take forward the mission that you have set for yourself and for all of us. What would be one particular obstacle or cultural obstacle that we have to deal with to make that shift from where we are today versus where you have laid out we want to be? And I think personally, I like to see the Academy of Leadership, or sorry, you call it School of Leadership, focuses on that obstacle. So that would be my.
I somehow have an answer. I mean, it's why I'm telling somehow is that I'm not very confident of the answer, but what my experience says is that the only obstacle is our negative impression on the system, negative impression on the method. So I see, for example, I'm not, naming any such, person or such. Even a dean comes and says that section is not approving this. So I'm asking myself a question that who is telling this is not just a Tom, Dick or Harry. The person is a dean. And that person also does not have a trust on the system on which that person wants to build up. So a strong negative impression on the capabilities of the system and the methodologies and approaches. And turning that negativity into not just positivity, but also a possibility. I think that is the greatest challenge. And once that is overcome, I do not see any challenge.
Very good. I agree with you. I agree with you.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like Leonardo da Vinci saying, mind sees what it wishes to see. If I want to see good in others, because I have something good in me. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. So with this, I'll move on to Subrata, Professor Subrata Chattopadhyay, to ask a make a remark in the form of a question. So it has been.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Joy. And thank you very much, Director Suman. I think I heard the best of you. And I've been here long enough, but this was simply music to the ears. It was like a poetry. And as Joy was saying, I also made lots of points of your talk. I have one question, but before that, I will take the example of three companies, mega giant companies. One is Nokia, two is Ericsson, and three is Blackberries. I've taken very simple examples of three giant companies.
Once upon a time.
And in 2000, there was a fight when I was teaching in Sweden. There was a fight among the faculty that you can't buy Nokia, you have to buy Ericsson because they were number one and number two. In 2008, there was a beeline to buy a BlackBerry because that was the ultimate. Today, all three are gone. Perhaps they didn't listen. Perhaps they thought that they're infallible. So my question, Suman, is we have crossed 75 years. We are 75 years young. Do you think that legacy is an asset for us versus legacy as a baggage? Because I want to caution that we shouldn't, take legacy as a baggage, and it should be turned into an asset. And therefore, I took the example of the three companies. Your reflection on that?
No, absolutely. You are spot on that it is a matter of our, what I would say is, up to what limit we would consider legacy to control us, or we are learning lesson out of that and moving forward with sort of amalgamating the legacy with newer possibilities. So at some point of time, legacy brings complacence. And what we feel is that perhaps we are very good at certain things. But what we don't realize is that it is not the best who are ruling the system. It is the smartest in certain areas who are ruling the system. So in many cases, even in a technology dominated world, it's not the best technology that is gaining the best market. And in fact, there are lots of conflicts when we talk about the promise of a technology and the technology that is working. So even in the legacy, what we see is that it comes to a level when it comes to our perception of like old is gold. And once we all enjoy this old is gold concept. When my father was sort of fond of some singers, and I used to say, oh, they are all backdated. Now I realize my son tells the same thing to me. So it's about old is gold, and therefore gold has to be preserved. We have to realize that again coming to that cocktail, the technology with empathy. So similarly, the cocktail of the legacy or the learning from the past with something that the past has never seen. So it's not a fault of the past. Imagine a curriculum in an era where the digital technology and AI is at the front seat. The best of the teachers 30, 40 years back, and they were absolute best. They never had to frame anything in this challenge. But they had the skill so that even when there is any perturbation, any disturbance, with the simple chalk and talk, they used to keep the student mesmerized. All of us have seen such teachers. So can't we develop a hybrid education model where we take lessons from that and amalgamate that with the futuristic things? So I think that if we keep that attitude in our mind, we will not, or we will never become obsolete or irrelevant, but we will have the learnings from the past just to take us forward in a better way.
Well said. If I may add,
very
Suman,
well
I would like
put.
to make one point. I recall a company in Japan. Japan is one of the oldest surviving companies in Japan, by the way. And they make sake. They used to make sake. But they never looked at themselves as a producer of alcohol. But they looked at themselves, they understand fermentation. And in the process, they expanded the concept of fermentation into pharmaceutical, in agro, in chemical. So how to use the knowledge of the past to expand the future, exactly what you said, looking for possibilities, building on the knowledge of the past. Where people get stuck, I think, they believe we make alcohol and that's all we do when the world of alcohol is changing, as opposed to we know fermentation. The other example is copperware. Copperware is very interesting. In Japan, most of the copperware manufacturing companies moved into optical fiber because they never looked at, they know copper extrusion or they're in copper, but they viewed themselves, mobilize electrons. We could also mobilize photons. So the thinking of what is the core of the past and how we expand on that is perhaps the most important challenge to stay relevant in the future. I just thought I will add to what you had to say.
Yeah, thank you so much, Partha. I think
No, this is absolutely spot on.
yeah, yeah. So I think with this we move on to Siddhartha, Professor Siddhartha Mukhopadhyay, a professor of electrical engineering, and who has been guarding this institute with his strategies and visions as the Dean of Alumni Affairs, once before, once now, and many, many other things. I know Siddhartha for ages. We are back to back 1984, 85. Yeah, in those days, we still are back to back. And I'll just have a request to the viewers. I can see one or two questions which have already been dropped down in the question box. You can always add a few. So over to Siddhartha to ask a interesting question.
Yeah, Suman, thank you for placing the leadership question in a very multifaceted and sort of crossing dimensions. It was wonderful and also very heady. So the question that comes to me is, what is the next step? How do we start? It appears to me that one of the initial things that probably is required, you can comment on it, is a culture change. Culture change in all stakeholders, the whole style of thinking. So what amazes me, that when a student, after so much effort, enters the portal of the institute, do we want to make that student learn? Because it may not be clear to the student at that time. It will be an ongoing process, but how to learn to imagine that what is the contribution that the student wants to make. I'm putting this, I'm not saying that what the student wants to achieve. These are these are directly related. You cannot achieve anything without contributing. But somehow I have not seen any clear, explicit exercise in letting students imagine what they are going to do with the time that they have been blessed with. Unless you know where you want to go, if you are presented with 10 options, I am reminded of that Alice in Wonderland situation where actually Alice is asking the Cheshire cat which way to go, and the cat is asking, where do you want to go? And then Alice says that I don't know, and then the cat says, then it doesn't matter. So I think major stakeholders of our institute, including faculty, administrators, students, are we really sure of where we want to go? What do we want to give? So some comment from you, sir. I think that would be the
yeah. I mean, this is the crux of the thing, and I will start with a bit of a lighter note that the cat says that I don't want to learn. So we have to sometimes in my natural style of mixing with students, and our lab is filled with such students with whom it's a pleasure of interacting. My general impression is that whatever we do is phase angle wise 90° with whatever whatever the students think that it is important. So so in that way, so for example, we are sort of scratching our head and plucking our hair and doing what and what not for brainstorming of whether we will include, say, electrical machines for say 30 hours or 33.5 hours. The student will say, have a damn to it, I don't care, I mean, this is just I have to do. So so majority of our exercise is actually turning out to be disconnected with the aspirations which are connected with our institute, be student, be faculty, be staff. And this disconnect is something which we have to accept to a large extent. Because if we think of a student, we cannot isolate a student from the society, from the economic background that the student has come. So many times for the student, it's a return of investment. And IIT suffered the most because of this, that whatever has been invested for the coaching or other forms of things, and the parents, if they are not well to do, they will expect a return of investment. I don't see any problem here. Now, but the thing is that it also has to do with a clarity of not just earning, but earning for certain purpose, which will make it a lifelong amplification, of everything, which will also amplify maybe the earning also. Now, that kind of holistic thought is, first of all, I think that to make them stakeholders and to make them sort of answer the question that what they are going to achieve, or they are going to contribute, rather achieve, they will say, okay, achieve a degree or a job or something, what they are going to contribute over this period, maybe students for 4 years and faculty for unlimited period, whatever, till retirement. Very jokingly, in our student days, we used to see many elderly teachers, and someone used to ask that how long the person will serve. At that time, STD booths were very common, so we used to say STD, service till death. So so in that way, that up to that intellectual death, what we say as service till death, what is that I am going to contribute? So the first is, this question can be answered when they are trained correctly how to think about these perspectives, and that training has to come somewhere for the IIT students at the school level or maybe pre-IIT level. Otherwise, they will never be in a position to think like this.
Right.
For faculty, I do not know. I mean, it's difficult to say. I mean, we ourselves interact with so many faculty, and I know many intelligent faculty, they also think in the same way like this, that to become from assistant to associate professor, I require 3 publications in some SCI journal. So I require 1 PhD guidance. So these check boxes are there, and once check boxes are there, check box feeling becomes the part of life. So at least what in our administration collectively, many of the deans and heads are sitting here, that collectively what we are trying to do is to minimize such kind of quantitative check boxes, which are actually not doing good. And once a bit of subjectivity comes, although we are in an objective world, but once a bit of subjectivity comes, I think this sense of purpose, that what we are doing and what for we are there, that will culturally come. I think that what you have said, Siddhartha, is right. But before that, so that is step 1. We need a step 0 to prepare this mindset and prepare this culture. Right. And then only if we get an answer, we can draw a statistical significance out of the answers that we are getting.
A wonderful round of, yeah, absolutely. Yes, Partha, you want to say something, or
no,
we can take up 1 or 2 questions?
No, let the audience, I will speak.
Yes,
later.
So I think before we have another round of very interesting interaction, I think we have Mr. Sahu, Raghava Sahu, I think expect a question or an observation from you. Yeah.
The director, sir, Professor Suman Chakraborty, I listened to your lecture, your inaugural lecture, when you took over as the director from beginning to end. Today also I have listened to you from beginning to end. I was impressed then. I am even more impressed now. Now, just to introduce myself, I am 1970 batch from IIT Kharagpur. And let me say, I was thinking of doing something for the Platinum Jubilee year. And just few days back, I sent a mail to Professor Mukhopadhyay, who is not only the Dean of Alumni Affairs, and fortunately for me also the chairman of the committee for the celebrations. And I sent a very short mail at around night, maybe 3:30 a.m. or 4 a.m. Next day morning, when I opened the thing, I saw that already there is an answer. So I was very much enthused. I have some simple proposal there where I give my service, not money. Because if I give money, that will have no impact. But this service, I feel, will be my sort of a Guru Dakshina. And it will, for the well-being of all sections of employees and their family members, not just faculty or lower, all one platform where all people of IIT will be at the same level. As far as, it will require formation of a trust. It will require, of course, approval by director and all. The whole process may take 6 months to 1 year if it is approved. Anyway, I think Professor Mukhopadhyay will take it up with you and other colleagues. So I'm looking forward to a feedback, hopefully a positive feedback. Sometime they are free to look at it. So otherwise, you have really brought out a tremendous vision for future of education in the country and particularly for IIT Kharagpur. So as a alumnus of IIT Kharagpur, I am really mighty proud of you as taken up this position now. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I think there are two very interesting questions in the question box. The first one is by Pradipda, our former registrar, Pradeep Pine. And Pradipda says, do you agree that leadership is nothing but nursing the baby, protecting the child, and freeing the adult? Very interesting question.
No, it's a very nice summary of what it should be, ideally, and perfectly aligned. I mean, there are few more things that will come into the scope of leadership, but this definitely very important. So all what it summarily means is that as per the stage, of the advancement or progress, you handle it in that way. So I think that the biggest challenge is that, another challenge that I have seen, personally, I have learned a lot from many of the institutional leaders. And in the process, I have also tried to make out that what I should not do in some cases. Right? What I should do, I have learned many of these. But sometimes that that bringing up the child and all that Pradipda talked about, that leaders become over possessive. That when they bring up something, they try to keep such a tight control that from the ground it cannot take off in the way in which it perhaps would have a dreamy journey. At the same time, at the very beginning, it would require much more protection. So that fine tuning or fine control of how much thread to sort of, bring out and bring down, that is one of the greatest learnings. And I think there is no hard and fast rule, and one has to learn it from practice and experience.
Thank you. There is another question, and this is by N. Arvind. And he says, Sir, excellence in technology, leadership, and organizational culture is what we look at professionally. What kind of role will societal culture play in our country's growth? What kind of role?
Societal culture plays the most important role. This is according to me. Because if you see at the end that a lot of aspect to do with the individual and the institutional progress comes from behavioral aspects. I mean, by behavioral aspect, I do not mean, courtesy in speaking and all, but overall approach towards situations. So approach towards a research, approach towards an administrative conflict, whatever it is. And the approach is very, very significantly dictated by the societal aspects, upbringing, culture, and so many other things. So this approach to problem solving, if we say, or rather problem addressing, it need not always be solving. There is a significant component of, the societal influence. And I think that decoding that dynamics is one of the big challenges of the leadership, because one has to live with it. It's just like a boundary condition of an engineering problem. You may solve for the flow and the stress inside, but if your boundary is no sleep, you cannot make it sleep. So you have to live with the society and try to see what best out of that you can extract to move forward as a leader.
Thank you.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah, I think we are almost coming to the end of the session. But before we do that, we'd like to have one last round of question from Subrata and Siddhartha. And then, of course, we'll have a closing remark and a conversation between Partha and Suman. Yeah. Subrata.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joy, for the second round. And I want to put again 2 examples, and I want to ask Director Suman. I have a feeling that that sometimes I see that the young minds that we teach, though we try to be as friendly and as approachable, but I have a feeling that they are increasingly becoming very fragile. They get stressed very easily. I mean, in our times, in your times, I'm sure the upbringing, the schooling, etc., had hardened us enough. I do not exactly know why they are becoming fragile. So my first advice to them would be, quoting from successful men with whom they relate. And I oftentimes take this example of Rafael Nadal, whom I used to adore. And I heard him say once that I never lose. When I do not win, I learn. So that's the kind of robust, feeling which I think our students should get. They never should lose. When they do not win, they learn. The second is a straight question to you, Suman. Sometimes, as the captain of the ship, you have to perhaps take decisions which are strong, which are not liked by everybody. You may not be able to, be very democratic all the time. And I take the example here of a company which is run by Eicher, which produces the Royal Enfield motorcycle. In 2000, there came a time when the company was winding up. They were selling less than 24,000 motorcycles in a year. And here came a leader, and I would love to have him sometime. I already told you once. Siddhartha Lal, a 26-year-old leader, becomes the CEO of this company. does 5 magic things, and today they are selling more than 1 million per year. So from a point of lockdown in 2025, they're the highest selling, and what a magic they have done. So magics are also possible if we know the real wand, which is the magic wand. So I just wanted to, raise these two issues.
Great examples, great examples and issues, absolutely.
Yeah. So with this, we come to Siddhartha, Professor Siddhartha Mukhopadhyay, our Dean, Alumni Affairs, to perhaps have the last question in this round. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I will focus again and again on what is our next actionable step. So, if you see in our major student communities, research scholars, postgraduate students, undergraduate students, we, through the process of their programs, what is our job? We are supposed to be, enriching them with knowledge. Now, there is a hierarchy of knowledge called the Bloom's taxonomy, which is widely used, which has 6 levels. The lowest level is remember, then it's understand, then it's apply. And the top 3 layers are analyze, evaluate, and create. So it somehow appears to me that particularly in our programs, we tend to stay in the first 3 levels: remember, understand, and apply. We are unable to go to so these are called the tool users skills, and the top 3 are called the tool makers skills. So my question to you, because you have been phenomenal in this, I know from my personal experiences, how do we elevate in our knowledge system to enrich students, to give them exposure to these top 3 tool maker skills, which are analyze, evaluate, and create?
Absolutely spot on in terms of what is required, and only way to do it is to have more activity driven components in the teaching learning process. It's not like a one way type of question answering, and someone told me this, and I think it's a legitimate concern, that if we give our 4-year BTech questions, the standard ones, not that kind of question when we have those very exceptional teachers sitting for 15 days to have this monkey carrying that pulley is in water there is lens, and then what is the age of the monkey, that kind of question. So not like that. So the standard questions, so it all given to ChatGPT. 90% of them are answered reasonably well. See, we always like to criticize new things which come up and sort of disrupt. So all our drivers used to say that Google map is useless, but they do not realize that with that Google map you have got to the last lap, and only those 50 meters you have to search exactly where it is. So all what it means is that we have to see that whatever the contents that we think are so important for the student, it is mostly satisfying our ego of a content setter. Those, if we sacrifice them a bit and bring the students into activities which purposefully build up these 3 skills that you talk about in those areas, and test those possibly in the form of group work, then the team building and other things will naturally grow, and the stress of individual performance will go down. The pressure of performing individually. Yeah. I think there is a lot of possibility in the NEP compliant curriculum to bring such things. And collectively, we must make an effort to bring these things with whatever may be the content. Of the learning outcome is the three things that you talked about.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Siddhartha, for asking that same question with another flavor, with another tune, and with another emphasis. I mean, that was brilliant. I'll just try to put it this way and close it. Suman, you'll be going out and playing the role of what you said as a global network orchestrator. Yeah, I think in a few days, you'll be going leaps and bounds to do that. And some of the brilliant minds across the world will be with you, along with you, beside you, around you, to take you around to the best of the minds across the world. And Partha is one such, great, benign, benevolent, benefactorial spirit who is committed to the renaissance, of entrepreneurship and innovations. The same spirit which probably Jamshedji Tata or Gurudev Rabindranath or Swami Vivekananda had about more than 100 years back. So I think I'll ask Partha to take some spirit from this, the next few days, you and Suman, and the next few weeks on the other side of the planet, and to make the planetary understanding of science and technology far more relevant and far more humane. Over to you, Partha.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank you, Joy, first, that being a master of the orchestra this evening in India and this morning in Boston. And I'd also like to thank Siddhartha, Subrata, and everyone else, Dr. Shahu, to make some very relevant points. I'd like to summarize the thoughts of Suman into three statements. One is reflects on what Siddhartha had to say, that how do we begin or how do we change? And I think we have to celebrate a statement which I've been making, I've been quoted, if it is to be, it's up to me. And there are 2 points here. If it is to be meaning the imagination that Suman talked about. And fortunately, I had the concept of imagination lab, which we'll establish exactly to do that, to help people expand the imagination of students, faculty, administration, so that B part gets established. What is a shared imagination? That we have a common vision where IIT would go, and Suman laid it out beautifully. And individual imagination, what would be my role without excuse? And then the next part is, it is up to me. Me is about understanding the self, inner conscience. And that's where, Joy, your role as the chairman of the School of Leadership becomes important. That how to cultivate that me in each and every individual in the campus, whether as a faculty member or she is an administrator or a student. So that's the first point. The second point that comes out from Suman's, and which I have been also talking about it, is great leaders lift others, they do not lift themselves. So that ability to lifting others, that desire, has to be cultivated. And that's again where I think the School of Leadership, IIT as a whole, must play a role. That we are here to lift others. In the process, you will get lifted, but doesn't matter whether you get lifted or not, but we are lifting others. And the final point is, which I have always believed, with egos outside and divine within, possibilities are limitless. So if we have to work on one problem, Siddhartha, you raise a very good point, in the campus, is how to help people take out their egos. At the student level, I noticed their ego is, I've cracked the exam. That's what I picked up in S.N. Bose Hall. But they do not know who is S.N. Bose, which is very interesting. So we have to ensure from the faculty to the students, we have a process of getting rid of the egos and cultivate the divine within. And as Suman beautifully laid out, in the process, explore the possibilities ahead. And IIT KGP provides that crucible. So that is my take from today's discussion. And one fundamental point I want to make, which it could have been a 10-hour speech, but I'll make it in 10 seconds, that, we do not have a choice. What Suman laid out today is obviously necessary, and I want to say we do not have a choice to take another route. Why? Because the world is changing very rapidly. The world is very fragile. There is a geopolitical tension, globalism, nationalism, parochialism. They are challenging each other. Socialism, capitalism is collapsing. They're looking for new ism, and respect for ecology and theology is disappearing. Now, given that, we have an excellent opportunity at IIT Kharagpur to be the beacon of hope, not only for our country, but for the world. And I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. And if we can do it well, we have the smart people. And someone talk about the effect of society on leadership. Society, when crumbles, leaders appear. That's what happened with Raja Ram Mohan Roy. That's what happened with Vidyasagar. That's what happened with Narottam Tagore to Rabindranath, all the way to Netaji and Bidhan Chandra Roy. So I do not worry about what's happening in society, but let's use this tension to create great leaders and let them come out from IIT Kharagpur. That is the challenge I would like to put forward to the entire IIT ecosystem. And my humble support is there. So what I'm looking forward to welcoming you in Boston, where we'll have more discussions. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Partha. I think before we close this session, there is one question from a young star, from a young heart, and that's very important. That's from Shonali Kumari, and this is the last question to Suman. And she says very beautifully, very simply, what are the best qualities for a college student? What are the best qualities for a college student to become a good leader for the country in his and her future? That's a very, very interesting question, straight from her heart. Yeah.
No, it's not an easy question to answer, but from my experience that I know, and I realize, it's not a bad thing that in the college level, if we are unstructured, if we are undecided, and if we are uncertain, we are at our best. So let us not be overstructured, let us not be overambitious, and let us not be in a do or die situation to make a CV. Just enjoy what you are doing, assimilate what you are getting good from the other places, and set your world dynamically as you grow.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think in today's talk, you have laid down both the structure and the aesthetics of the total architecture of how we lead others, even though nothing happens to us, good or bad. We remain as a facilitator from behind. Brilliant. I think on behalf of Subrata, Professor Chattopadhyay, Siddhartha, Professor Mukhopadhyay, and Partha, Dr. Partha Ghosh, and everyone else who is here in this electronic podium, I think this has been such a learning, such an open and candid exchange of thoughts. And last but not the least, it was a dialogue straight from your heart. I think it was straight from your heart. And that's what matters. The heart moves ahead. Everything else follows. Everything else follows. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Yeah.
for giving this platform and opportunity, and it was a great learning for me too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suman.
Pleasure is also
see you soon
ours.
in Boston.
Yeah.
Travel
Thank you.
safely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to the audience, I think.
Absolutely.
being with
Thanks
us.
to the audience.
Yeah.
Such a patient audience here. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.